Hello, Marion. Welcome
Hi.
to the Web Zurich meetup. And
Thank you.
I'm really excited to have you here. You are one of the co-organizers of the Women Tech Makers here in Zurich. You work at Hasura, and you have been doing a lot of stuff in open source. And I think everyone is kind of excited about open source. And I hope that you can share your insights with us today.
I hope so too. Thank you so much, Martin. Let me share my screen.
Yes.
Is this working?
Yes.
Perfect.
There you
Okay,
go.
so before I start, I just want to say again, thank you. I'm very happy and honored to be part of this anniversary edition of Web Zurich. Thank you so much, Martin and Olga. I've been interacting with them regarding this specific talk. And also thank you again for all the amazing volunteers that make this Web Zurich meetup happen every month. So for me, I think this is already the third talk. And if you are a person who like always thinks, maybe I want to do a talk once, but I'm not sure, I can totally recommend submitting a talk for Web Zurich because it's a safe environment. It was even one of my first talks. So if in doubt, just submit a talk to the amazing team of Web Zurich. All right, so today I want to talk to you about how to manage an open source project. I mean, this is more like how we manage an open source project at Hasura, not like the only guide to doing it, but just like as one example. And before I start, I want to introduce myself. So I'm Marion. I live in Zurich. I'm a developer experience engineer at Hasura. What this means is I'm working on the Hasura documentation. I manage all the open source contributions that come in at Hasura and also growing them. And I'm organizing the Hasura community call. To the last two, like open source contributions and community call, I will say more in this talk. A fun fact about me is that I like riding dirt bikes. I only started 1 year ago, but it's really nice. It's a nice balance to the office work I'm doing otherwise. So let's see where this is going. Okay, so before I start, so that this makes a little bit of sense to you, I just want to tell you quickly something about Hasura, very briefly. So Hasura is a GraphQL API, and it's open source. The core part of Hasura is open source. And just recently, I think 1 or 2 weeks ago, we launched Hasura Cloud, which allows you to you don't have to deploy Hasura on any other clouds, which you also can, but you can deploy it on Hasura itself. So if you want to find out more, there's enough information on our website. Okay, so let's dive into the open source stuff. At Hasura, we have 3 main technical components, which is the Hasura console. This is the UI where you can build your schema. Basically, you can add your tables and event triggers and all the business logic over the Hasura console. This is built with React and TypeScript. Then we have the Hasura server, which processes all the requests, which is written in Haskell. And finally, we have the Hasura CLI that is written in Go. So these are our main technologies. Then the other components are, of course, documentation and also community. Community involves mainly sample apps, also tutorials and boilerplates that are largely built by the team, but also by the community. Now, a little bit about the background of Hasura and open source. So the core GraphQL engine is open source and will forever be open source. There's also there will also be always efforts put into extending the GraphQL engine and adding new features to it. Regarding, of course, a lot of the work, most of the work is done by the team itself, but we also have a lot of contributors, about 20 pull requests per month. Some of them are first-time contributors, and we also have some contributors that contribute regularly. a lot of our contributions are around documentation. When somebody adds something or fixes typos and small things, but also sometimes guides in the documentation that are very helpful. Community, if somebody has built something with a new technology that we haven't covered in our sample apps, then sometimes we get pull requests for those. And the Hasura console, which is in React, because there are a lot of people who know React. Also, the CLI that is with Go, we have quite some contributions. The only challenge is like it's very hard to find contributors for Haskell. Not only contributors, but also like people who are into functional programming and know Haskell to do this as a job. So this is a little bit the challenge, but we've put some work into getting more contributions on Haskell, and I think we'll see a little bit more rise in these contributions as well. Our community, so we always get a lot of feedback from the community, and this will give us how do I say this? So this gives us shows us the direction that we will go. When we see what the community needs, we'll make sure that what pain points are the most for the community, that we can fix those things. And the way we learn about these is over GitHub and GitHub issues where we answer questions. And then, of course, if we see that one issue is coming up regularly, then this is something that we consider adding in the future. And the other thing is our Discord channel, which is a very lively and very friendly channel where the community mainly answers questions among themselves. So the team helps out whenever questions don't get answered, but mainly our community, they interact with each other, they share experiences. And I think this interaction is what I like a lot about working for an open source project, because it's about the interaction not only from the team to the user group, but also within the user groups themselves. And because we're open source and because we're interacting with the community a lot, we'll get all this feedback, and it helps us to fix things quickly and to also feel like what the community needs. Then this is one of my favorites. So we have a monthly community call at Hasura, which I'm organizing this. And every time we have people from the team showing upcoming features. If we have new workflows, we'll show them. And it's just like an opportunity to hang out with the community. It's on a Zoom call, and then there's a chat, and it's very engaged. So it's an opportunity for the users to find out like what are the upcoming features, because we show features that are not released yet, but that we're working on. And it's also an opportunity for potential open source contributors, because we show open issues that are easy to contribute to. For example, we also want to be very open for first-time contributors. So this is where we show what we have at the moment that is good for the open source community to help with. And my favorite is at the end of each community call, we have a community demo where someone from the community will show either a contribution they made for Hasura. Maybe they built a sample app. And for example, a few weeks ago, one community member, he showed a multiplayer game with authentication and like a very complex game that he built with Hasura. And he showcased this in our community call. So this is very cool. So either contributions or also just projects built with Hasura. Yeah, next week we have the next community call. I'm always looking forward to those, because it makes me really happy when the community gets together, and we also get a lot of feedback from these calls. So we've been thinking, what can we do to be welcoming for contributors? And what we did is, in our GitHub repository, we went through the issues, and we continue doing this, to label the issues as either good first issues and or help wanted. So, for example, if one person wants to start contributing to open source, then maybe they are scared or a little bit uncertain. So it's it's nice to know, what issues are easy to contribute. And good first issues in our case are issues that don't need a lot of context. You don't need to know the whole technical component to actually work on this issue. Maybe it's something that's a little bit separate and can be done by itself without understanding the whole thing. Then we are trying to be as clear as possible with instructions as how to set up the development environment. Of course, if somebody sets this up and something doesn't work, please let me know immediately, and I want to fix this. So we want to be very clear, and it should be easy to get started, because you want to work at the actual issue and not spend a lot of time setting everything up. Then what we've started doing a few months ago is a monthly digest where we just highlight issues that, first of all, we want to cover, and second of all, are good issues for the open source community to help with. This we will also show in the community call, as I mentioned before. Then something else we do is we have a contributor channel on our Discord server where people, if they want to, they can, for example, say, I want to work with Go and it's my first time contributing, and then we will recommend something to contribute, and we will also help with everything to get started. And of course, we have a code of conduct so that whoever contributes can feel that they are in a safe environment. So for Hasura, there are several ways you can contribute, and I think this is true for a lot of open source projects. So one of the things is, and this is maybe sometimes a little bit underrated, is creating an issue. For example, something is not working, and then people creating an issue is a great way of contributing, because it helps the team finding out what the pain points are, and also, of course, if there's a bug in the system somewhere. So we give a lot of value to this kind of contribution where we can learn a lot. Then another way is to actually work on an issue, which it's easy to get started. So you can choose the component, for example, Hasura CLI, if you want to work with Go, and then filter for good first issues. So this is another way to contribute a little bit more. It takes a little bit more time than creating an issue. But still we get quite a number of contributions, which I'm very happy about. Then what a lot of our community members do is, if they build something, for example, with a new technology, and they just build it to learn, and then sometimes they make a pull request to our repository where we have sample apps, and this is very helpful for others to learn, because they can just go there and get started, and they might have, if they have clear instructions, might have less issues of completing a sample app. Then this is something we get a lot during Hacktoberfest, is translations. So we have a README, a contributing guide, code of conduct, and we get a lot of contributions that translate these guides into other languages, which is very cool, because first of all, it's nice to see that Hasura is growing more internationally, but also I think if a person with a specific language gets started and they see other people from a similar background have have contributed to this. It kind of creates a sense of community, which is very nice, I think. And also something that is maybe not always regarded as a open source contribution is answering questions. And I think this is a very important part. In our Discord channel and also on Stack Overflow, so many questions get answered by community members. And I think this is really amazing because people are taking time out of their busy work schedule, helping others because probably they had the same issues or uncertainties and now help others get to the solution more quickly. And this is like why I love my job, because every day I see people helping each other out and it makes me really happy. Then if another way is to do a presentation. If somebody built something with Hasura or they introduced Hasura at their community, they sometimes present at meetups or at conferences. And of course, we'll support them in this way too. I'll come to this later. Actually, I come to this right now. So whenever somebody wants to organize a meetup or a workshop, they can contact us anytime and we will sponsor drinks, location, we will review slides, which is also, I think, a good opportunity. For example, if you're thinking about doing your first talk at the meetup or conference and you get feedback, we can do, how do you say, practice sessions. And we'll also, of course, also send swag for all the attendees at the meetups. And something that I really like is if a contributor make their first PR and it gets merged, then we'll send them some swag, so a t-shirt and some stickers, which is always very popular, as you might know, in the developer community. And finally, I just want to share a small example that we had a lot of contributions for. We have started to migrate our Hasura console from JavaScript to TypeScript. I think this started like 3 months ago, and a lot of the parts we migrated ourselves, but it's so much to migrate, and of course we also have to work on features. So we made an issue with a huge list of components that need migration, and it's amazing the number of 34 PRs we got. I think in 2 months, 22 of them are merged. Most of the others are in review, and it created like an amazing vibe. This was like such a popular way of contributing because it enabled people to choose what they wanted to do. So some components were very small. So if people didn't have a lot of time, they just chose something small, but still they did an open source contribution, which I think feels good. And others did larger components. And I think one person made now 10 pull requests, 8 of which are already merged. So he has like started working on this, and it's been a lot of fun interacting with him and with all of the open source contributors. And yeah, I really love that it's one of my favorite things I'm doing at Azura. Like I get to interact with open source contributors every day. And yeah, I see what they want to do, and this is why it makes it easier for us to actually then pick the issues that are suitable and that we think people have fun working with. Yes, that's it. Always very short and compact talks at Web Zurich. I like it. Thank